Hello and welcome to a new episode of Airport CEO here on the channel. An episode where we are a little bit all over the place, to be honest, but we will be mainly focusing on Terminal 1, trying to get one part ready for operations, starting to work towards having the operations ready as well for the wide-body terminals that we have, and we will take a little bit of a look at our government's terminal to see if the operations over there are running smoothly and without hiccups. And before we get too far into the episode, as always, if you should end up enjoying this video, then don't forget to smash the like button. That really helps us out. And if you are new around here, why not hit subscribe? Now, the first thing we want to do here is at least add a few flights over at the government's terminal so that we get a few flights in there, just to keep an eye out on that over the process of this episode to see that the terminal is running smoothly. Now, I will space these things out quite a lot. We also don't have too many flights to choose from at the moment. And honestly speaking, I don't see myself ever putting much more flights to this terminal as we are doing here, and that's just because I don't think that would be realistic for the government's terminal, but it also means that if there should be some hiccups over the terminal, there is much more leeway to give it with any problems there should be and delays and so on. And other than that, our focus will be mainly over at Terminal 1 to see that we can get ready for operations. We will be adding a few airlines in this episode as well in preparations for opening that part of the airport, and I think it will mainly focusing on airlines that you actually suggested in the last episodes. And of course, that means if you want to see some other airlines that I don't add in this video, then make sure that you suggest them in the comment section below, and if they are fitting to this airport here in Berlin Tegel, then I might just add them in the next episode. Alright, so here over at Terminal 1, we were last time working on the baggage system. That is still under construction. It's taking quite a long time. I do think that is something to do with that the workers actually have to reach the specific areas that have to be constructed nowadays. So they even have to go to the same level that this has to be constructed on. In past versions of the game that was not the case, so that might delay it all a little bit. So at the moment our check-in counters are still put here or noticed here as not being connected up with the baggage system. So we will have to do that, of course, in this episode to make sure that they are operational, because before the baggage system is operational, there is really no point in starting getting flights into this part of the airport. That would just cause a huge mess. And we would also have potentially a huge mess here in the terminal if I wouldn't add all these queues to the check-in counters. We have this tool for check-in counters and security checks and so on, and it's really recommendable to do all that every time you build these things, because it will just guide the passengers to these items. Otherwise they would just make a huge bulk and just block everything. So if you are normally, or if you're new to the game and you haven't really done that before, it's really recommendable. It does take some time, especially when you have loads of, for example, check-in counters and stuff like that, but it is really worth taking the time for it. Another thing we need to take a little bit of time on, and more out of necessity than any comfort or other reasons in the game, is simply connecting everything up. We need to connect all the different check-in counters, and we need to check or connect up the different gates with the baggage bay and so on, so that everything can actually work once we will have aircrafts coming in. And granted, it's not the most fun part of the game, but it is simply necessary to make it work. Now that we have done all these practical things, I think it is time to take a look at some airline contracts. I will sign Lufthansa because obviously they do fly to Berlin Tegel in real life as well. The airlines are still slowly loading here, so we will definitely come back to that a little bit later, but I think we'll also get in EasyJet or EasyJet UK. We have multiple EasyJets in this game, both EasyJet Europe, UK and Switzerland, and we might end up signing all of them. I'm not quite sure yet, but for now we just take UK. And yeah, so the airlines are slowly loading in here at the moment with offers, and I think we will come back to that and then add a few more. And as I said, we will definitely add the airlines that you have already suggested in the comment section below. So if you want to see more, then you know what to do. All right, time to check out the government's terminal, because we have a few aircraft coming in every now and then, and as you can see, it's not perfect. We do get the notice that the aircraft is a little bit delayed, but as we can see then, it's also pulling out just at the moment we are heading over there, so it doesn't seem to be completely terrible. Why there's a slight delay, not entirely sure. I mean, workers could take potentially quite long to get over there to reach their workstations, but on the other hand, we have done pretty much everything we can do to make sure that workers would be near. We have specifically assigned specific GSE to gates over there, and we have also made sure that we of course have staff rooms. So I guess I don't know if I can do anything else to make sure that workers are around this area to make the or this part of the airport run smoother. But I think it is alright as is, at least for the moment. Alright, some time has passed, so some more airlines should have loaded. So let's sign another EasyJet. Why not take a Lingus? And let's see, there's still airlines loading in, so yeah, let's just wait a little longer again and then see what else is coming. Because there are a few airlines that you guys requested. I can see here Saudia has also a long reach or wide body aircraft, that's nice. Yeah, we will come back to that in just a second, because now we will continue here over at Terminal 1. I want to start working a little bit here at the wide body gates, start putting in the boarding desks and so on, so that we at some point or in the near future also can start having wide body coming in here with PAX traffic. That would be quite nice, I think. So given due to the way this airport is designed that space is quite at a premium, we need to be a little bit clever about how we do that. So I can't just put the boarding desks right at the jet bridge. That would give me especially issues at the corners of the building, because we have gates very close to each other there. So I'm trying to space it all out a little bit. So I'm actually putting the boarding desk quite far away from the actual jet bridge, but then basically making sure that people will go to the jet bridges by simply adding walls there. I've done that in a few other builds and it does work quite well. The only thing is you really need to do that, add this stuff before you start operations. If you do it or try to fix something while you are in operations, it kind of can confuse the game a little bit. So yeah, that's quite important, but other than that, it just works, and it really makes it easier to space out things so that we also have enough space, for example, for benches, so that people can wait at the gates and be comfortable there. But despite spacing out where I have my boarding desks, I do tend to have these kind of dead areas. Basically everywhere we have these escalators that bring off passengers from the security checks and up to level 1 here where we are boarding passengers. Yeah, I have these dead areas, and so I thought, why not use them for something useful? So I'm adding bathrooms there, but we could also potentially have staff rooms there if we needed to. So we really utilize the space as well as good as possible, and yeah, really use up every square meter to our disposal. And I think it's also a logical point to actually have them, because they are normally, these areas are normally kind of between gates. So, and it's where people are just coming up after security. So I think it's actually also quite a logical point, even from with a real life perspective, to have bathrooms at that area. So that will basically be the concept here in Terminal 1 at least, that every time we have these escalators coming up from the security checks, we'll have bathrooms. It's maybe a paradox, because it's basically because we don't really have anything else to use the space for, which is funny given that we are kind of lacking space pretty much everywhere at this airport. But yeah, it's the natural point or natural place to put them, and of course we will then also make them gender specific. Yeah, just because we most of the time will have at least space for 2 bathrooms, so it would make sense to split them up. Of course, the part of the terminal, or at least in the security zone, where we have a little bit more space to work with, not much, but we have some space to actually work with, is of course the part that is facing towards the land side. And obviously, as in pretty much all airports these days, we will use that for shops. We might not end up having too many shops here, because we don't have so much space, but the space we have we can at least utilize with that. And we'll try to make them large, in the sense of large compared to the space we have available here, just to make sure that we can at least get in a few premium shops, because they obviously pay way better than small shops. So that is really what we are trying to do here. On this part of Terminal 1 we will have space for 2 shops, at least 2 decently sized shops. We could probably squeeze in another one, but then they would all be a lot smaller. So 2 decently sized shops, and we will make one into a food room and one into a normal shop. I definitely also want to add some shops on ground floor, where we're basically still outside of the security area, so around the check-in counters. But I think that's really something, pretty much one of the last things we'll probably do here at Terminal 1, because the only way I can do that is if there is any space left down there, which I still am not quite sure about. I have tried to make some already, prepare a little bit of space for it, but we might need to utilize that space for other things that we need for operating this airport. So we will see if it will be possible. But if, then we will definitely also add shops there, and that's just, well, it's, as I say, a really good way of making income for the airport. It's logical, it is in real life, so why wouldn't it be in the game as well? Alright, given that some more time has passed, many more airlines have loaded into the game, so let's take some of your suggestions. You had suggested, for example, Norwegian. We have 2 of them. I think we'll take the one which only has 737-800s for now, but we could also add the other one with wide-body aircraft. And then Swiss, which was also a suggestion by you. There was one suggesting ANA, so that could come in as well. I have looked on the Steam Workshop and I found one mod with ANA, although those were only with special liveries of ANA. So I have added it, but I only did it after recording this, so we could add it at a later episode in the series if we want to, although I don't think ANA is flying to Berlin-Tegel at the moment. But we will also add a few airlines that are not flying to Berlin-Tegel in real life. But the minimum requirement for me to add airlines to this airport is that they at least potentially in real life could fly to the airport. So for example, as I said in a previous episode, an airline like JetBlue is not flying intercontinental, at least not to Europe, and therefore it would not be realistic to see them here at the airport, so I will not be adding airlines like that. Although I think, actually, now come to think of it, I think JetBlue has at least openly been thinking about starting flying over the Atlantic, but I don't think they do it currently. But anyway, you get the point. Alright friends, so I think we are coming towards the end of this episode. We have actually started quite a lot of constructions and the game needs to catch up with that, which takes quite a lot of time. So while I'm doing the outro, the last thing I will be working on here is actually, I think, adding a staff room close to the part of Terminal 1 that we want to open up fairly soon. If we're lucky, we could already do it in the next episode. I will definitely leave the game running after recording this to make sure that the constructions are keeping up a little bit with our efforts to build this airport. So with that, we are really coming to the end. Don't forget to leave your suggestions for airlines in the comment section below. We've talked about it a few times throughout this episode, what would be realistic and what would not. So just keep it within that. That would be my only request for you. Of course, if you enjoyed the video, then don't forget to smash the like button. That really helps us out. And if you're new around here, why not hit subscribe? And with that, I'd like to say thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you soon again. I'm checking out, and bye.